flame. All that I ever need is in your name. Carry your heart and mind, vast as space. All that I am today is by your grace, by your grace, grace, by your 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 grace, by I am only here for
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। You all are most welcome again to this second day presentation. Yesterday, we invited beloved Baba to take care of this, and there were a lot of mistakes because Baba was on the driver's seat, but there was another steering which I was holding. And we were not giving him freedom to handle that main steering. So there were many lapses. And today, we would, on behalf of you all, request him to please hold on and do not give us chance to use another small steering so that this program goes on nicely. So with this, we now start our program, giving everything in his care, and you are all invited. Our first presentation today is from Sufism oriented, and we are beginning with that. Please introduce that. You can.
Jai Baba. Oh, God, no, I'm not the speaker. I'm not. Jai Baba. Murshid Walker Lambert of Sufism Reoriented was scheduled to give this talk. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here in person today. We will have Candace DeVisser and Raleigh Hogan Miller will present Murshid Walker's talk in his stead. Thank you.
First, we'd just like to thank GoGoRun from the bottom of our hearts for hosting us year after year and everything you've done. So thank you, GoGoRun. Like Abby said, my name is Raleigh Hogan Miller. I'm one of the members of Sufism Reoriented, traveling from the United States, who has the privilege of joining you all today at this very important Avataric Treasure program. As you heard from Gavi, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that we have a very rich and insightful talk prepared by Murshid Walker, who is our current Murshid of Sufism Reoriented. The bad news is that he's not here, so we're going to do our best to deliver it in his stead today. As I begin, please note that I will be reading in the first person at times, in Murshid Walker's voice, just as though he himself were presenting the talk. Please also note that there are multiple instances throughout the presentation where Murshid Walker quotes talks from his predecessor, Murshida Carol Connor, or where he quotes Meher Baba himself. We have done our best to make it clear in those instances when Murshida Connor or beloved Baba is being quoted. I'm also joined here on stage by Candace DeVisser, who will be reading direct passages of past presentations by Murshida Connor throughout our talk. So now we begin. Jai Baba, I am delighted to take part in this international gathering once again, and I am especially happy to be here for this final conference. I have attended this event on 2 occasions several years ago, speaking on behalf of my predecessor, Murshida Carol Connor. Murshida Connor offered talks for this conference every year since its inception. After her passing, I maintained this tradition, and Meher Baba's Sufism Reoriented sent talks each year at GoGoRan's kind invitation. Like many of us, Murshida Connor was interested in what she called the big picture. By this, she meant the broader, overarching focus of Baba's work. She spent a great deal of energy honing in on the unprecedented nature of that big picture work. As the Kalki Avatar, the last in a great cycle of cycles, Meher Baba's work was immense and earth-changing, since it transformed the way humanity can now live God in the everyday world. I will dive into that more in a moment. The Avataric treasure is also, in a way, itself concerned with Baba's big picture. That's why each year Dr. GoGoRan Srivastava and the Library Committee of the Trust have devoted this event to themes, time periods, and phases in Baba's life. These historical and thematic contexts provide a foundation for speaking about Baba's broader work. In many ways, everything has already been said. So I was thinking that for our contribution at this last conference, honoring the culminating years of Baba's advent, I would simply review some of what was covered in the talks that my predecessor submitted over the years, as they outline key phases in Baba's work of divinizing all of creation. Using highlights from the talks that we gave here over the years, I will try to bring it all full circle around this idea called the big picture. How can one measure the scope and force and import of this singular Avataric advent? Any attempt to trace the immensity of Baba's work means pulling the lens very far back and stretching it out very broadly. It's this broad lens of understanding that we are calling the big picture. As the last avatar in a great cycle of cycles of avatars, the last of these cycles beginning with Zoroaster and culminating with Baba, his work was unlike anything that came before. His charge was unique among avatars. Every avatar changes the patterns of the earth. In Baba's case, the significance of what he brought is staggering to consider when we view his advent as part of this immense stretch of time, vaster than we can possibly fathom with any measurements of time. Here is Murshid Connor.
As the seventh and last avatar of this Avataric cycle, Mayor Baba works as an integrator. He completes the work of the entire cycle by bringing the blends of divine energy associated with the 6 previous Avataric advents in the cycle into full manifestation, amplifying them, focusing them, blending them together, and then revitalizing them with his own fresh new blend of energy that he draws down from the higher realms. This is not an abstraction. Baba's work is very concrete as he works directly with the matter, that is, the substance of creation.
Baba stood, quote, at the turning point of universal history. Why is that? Baba's work at every turn was to open wide one's access to God, so that all can increasingly live new divine consciousness on earth. Baba called it simply life, in capital letters, which is captured in the quotation, the life of God in essence and of a man in action. In the past, seekers of God had to retreat to caves and monasteries or find ways to transcend the body in order to experience God, to get closer to him. Baba's work in this Advent created the opportunity for the human being to walk with this new consciousness in the humble form of an everyday person, in everyday life, in the quotidian world. Baba famously expressed this pivot in the context of the new life. Baba said, quote, "My old life places me on the altar of godhood and divine perfection. My new life makes me take the stand of a humble servant of God and his people. In my new life, perfect divinity is replaced by perfect humility. In my new life, I am the seeker, the lover, and the friend." He continues, both these aspects, perfect divinity and perfect humility, have been by God's will, and both are everlastingly linked with God's eternal life. Anyone may believe me to be whatever he likes, but none may ask for blessings, miracles, or rewards of any kind. My new life is eternal. End quote. So what was the essence of the work Baba did to bring about this new orientation and experience of God? Baba explained the process in this way, quote, "My abode is infinite. It is formless, but there are 7 doors in my abode. Each door remains closed to all those bound in illusion. The aim of involution is to open these 7 doors, to experience my infinity. The first door is extremely difficult to open. All the kingdoms of evolution stand at this door. Humanity has its back to this door. All faces are turned toward illusion. Humanity is the nearest kingdom to this door. I come to open these 7 doors. I work to cut a hole in the first door. That door leads to the first plane. This cutting is my work during my lifetime." End quote. This is an enormous statement, and we know that Baba did not say things casually. He directly states here that cutting the hole to the higher planes is his work. Baba's entire Advent can be seen as an effort to accomplish that work. Baba was tasked in every breath with closing an enormous phase of creation and opening the door to a new one. This was not done in the abstract, theoretically or philosophically. The fruits of that work were to be lived in the gross world. You might call this, as my predecessor did, descendant spirituality. Descendant spirituality means that one is increasingly able to live the principles of the highest mental planes here on this gross plane. Baba's work to cut a hole in the first door constituted a pivot from anything that had come before. In cutting that hole, he flooded this gross plane with his radiance so that we might live here on this earth his principles of truth, love, purity, and beauty without shutting out the world. I'd propose that this work of Baba's also marked the beginning of what he called a new humanity. Humanity, as we had always known it, was in fact in its infancy. Now it was ready for something more, and Baba's work was to model and establish the beginning of the new consciousness. Since the conference presentations drafted over the years for the Avataric Treasure events were each dedicated to a specific era of Baba's life, they contained many specific illustrations of this relationship between a particular phase of Baba's work and the universal big picture. I have gathered a few excerpts from those talks that I think encapsulate the story well. As I reviewed these excerpts, I was thoughtful that each phase of his work allowed Baba to anchor his principles on this plane of life. One of the first papers Murshid Khanner offered here was on the Prem Ashram, Baba's School for Love, which was formed at Meherabad in 1927, 2 years after Baba had begun his silence and given up both speaking and writing. Baba's work with the Prem Ashram students allowed him to anchor and release love with a degree of force previously unknown to earth. He would later call it, quote, a release of love in measureless abundance. Here is an excerpt from that Prem Ashram talk.
In laying the foundation for the coming New Age, Baba worked to bring about the descent of a new blend of divine energy on earth. It was through his work with the Prem Ashram boys that Baba first manifested this extraordinary new blend of divine energy here on earth. And it was through the vessel of the Prem Ashram that he began to anchor this new energy in the East and in the West. It was not coincidental that this work began after Baba had begun his silence. Love is silent. Now, working in silence, Baba began to anchor an immensely powerful new blend of radiant divine energy on earth. His closing of the book on the streams of false words was followed by the free-flowing streams of tears of love from the Prem Ashram boys as their hearts were opened by the profound first descent of the most powerful blend of divine love ever brought down to circulate in the atmosphere of the earth.
The talk goes on to discuss how Baba's work to flood this plane with his divinity required certain practical elements in order to anchor that radiance. In this case, that anchoring came in the form of living receivers, children. In their natural state of purity, children can be more receptive to divine radiance, albeit unconsciously, as their egos are less developed and less prone to reject or interfere with this gift of love. Since all children are in this sense naturally closer to God, their hearts can receive more. Meher Baba was therefore able to work with the Prem Ashram children at deeper levels. Through these children, these receivers, Baba could more widely share the fiery flame of his love. Here is another excerpt.
Baba could anchor in the world for the first time a new blend of divine energy that would prepare all creation for a new life. As the children responded to him, honored his principles, and enthroned him in their hearts, patterns were formed and pathways forged in the consciousness of the entire world. And important first steps were taken toward unfolding the real life that all humanity would follow in the future.
In late December of 1927, The children could often be found weeping. Sometimes their sobs were heard from nearly a mile away. This was simply their spontaneous, natural response to the Avatar's love. Meherabad became saturated with the children's tears of love, which in turn inundated the atmosphere around Meherabad in divine love. The Prem Ashram boys responded to Baba's love, and their response, welcoming what he brought into their hearts, would in time be echoed across the world. The children's response to Baba's love constituted the first widespread taste of this new blend of divine love on earth. Each phase of Baba's work amplified his radiance and strengthened its anchoring on earth. In the 1930s, Baba's period of world travel, he spread this new blend of divine love across the globe, in the East and in the West. In the early 1930s, he embarked on 3 successive trips to the West. Baba was the first avatar from the last cycle of cycles to work in the West. Baba told his close Mandali in 1932, quote, "During this period of my avatarhood, I have to cleanse the world completely. This overhauling will last 1,000 years." Here is a passage from that talk, focusing on the 1930s.
In Meher Baba's work, the word cleansing had a particular association. You may recall that Baba made a point of personally bathing, that is cleansing, the children at the school at Meherabad. He also often bathed the poor and the sick and cleaned out with his own hands the latrines they used. Baba told the Mandali, "You will never know how sweet and wonderful this work is to me." He explained, "We masters also work as sweepers, that is janitors, cleaning toilets, and that we do internally." Baba is referring here to cleansing sanskaric deposits that encode the dead past. And so, in this way, when he bathed the children, the destitute and the sick, Baba was cleaning them inwardly of layers of past sanskaric dirt as well. Such cleansing or purifying was a constant theme of Baba's work. One of the central goals of Baba's advent was the uprooting of separative self and limited mind. The dissolution of the mind goes hand in hand with what Baba called cleansing the world. The process of purifying, renewing, and raising all created forms, not only biological, evolutionary forms, but forms of thought, feeling, behavior, social organization, culture, and worship, to make possible a new, higher level of integration. Baba said he would cleanse the world completely, east and west, in a way no avatar before him had ever done, and that this overhauling, as he called it, would last 1,000 years. In other words, the influence of his work as the last avatar of the closing age would extend through the end of his next advent as the first avatar of the new age.
This talk reviewed the extent of Baba's travel from the early 1920s through the late 1940s. Of course, in the 1950s, he would make more pivotal trips to the West, including a trip to Australia. The sheer number of tombs and sacred sites he visited over nearly 30 years of travel is remarkable, not only counting sites on the Indian subcontinent, but also the sites he visited associated with faiths all over the world. His visits to these places, merely walking the earth near their locations, were a form of cleansing, since with his footsteps he brought the truth beyond any values and traditions established in the past. Baba explained, quote, "By my living presence, I clean the tangled atmosphere of the shrines of the dead saints, Sadgurus, and Kutubs," end quote. Paying homage to so many holy sites purified and revitalized them for his advent, preparing them to shed age-old habits and stale rituals, and readying them to receive this new blend of divine love. Baba's international travels also cleansed and purified the atmosphere of entire nations, loosening their attachment to social traditions and mores. His mere presence, with its free flow of radiant love, was the act of cleansing. His travels also honored the material, social, and religious achievements of dozens of cultures, and his many visits also revitalized those traditions, preparing them for his love. This phase of focused wandering continued through the late 1940s. The end of that decade, 1949, brings us to the new life and to the talk Murshida offered here about the new life called The Real Beginning. This title was inspired by a circular from Baba in 1949, where he announced, quote, "The year 1949 marks an artificial end to an artificial beginning, and the real beginning to the real end," end quote. This notion of a real beginning and a real end signal the universal nature of this new phase of his work. We will return to this idea. By this point in his advent, specifically after completing the new life, Baba had templated a new kind of spirituality, descendant spirituality, for his new humanity. It was now possible for the new consciousness to be lived right here in this gross world. Let's hear some excerpts from that new life talk.
Throughout the age now closing, the object of spiritual practice was to disentangle conditioned consciousness from the material world and rise above it, ascending through the inner planes to achieve liberation or mukti, in which the individual soul merges in divinity, leaving the illusion of creation forever. That was the goal of the great spiritual pathways of the past. In contrast, the new consciousness of the age now dawning may be characterized as the descent of the higher mind into the physical realm. Spirit and matter merge in the new divine humanity, here on this earth. Baba has called it real living, the divine life, life eternal, or simply life in capital letters. It is a consciousness that, in Baba's words, admits no divisions and accepts no limitations. Utterly free of the separative self and its desires and cravings, this life vibrates eternally and one in all. This consciousness is brand new. It has never been seen on earth before. Yet it was destined from the very moment of creation. Its descent into the physical realm is now at last made possible by the high radiant energy of Meher Baba's word of words, released in this advent for the regeneration of every realm and level of manifested life.
In the new life, Baba walked with divine consciousness as man, templating a new consciousness for all. I'd propose that this was the purpose of the new life. He had to do it himself, in human form, as man, breathe it himself so that all could follow him and breathe it in turn. The new life was, in this sense, highly unusual. Murshida notes that there was nothing like it in any other Avataric advent. It is not a life of symbolic exile, like Rama's years in the forest, nor a life of leaving the world, such as Buddha's renunciation of his princely life to become a seeker of truth. Nor is it like Muhammad's flight from Mecca, driven out by his enemies, or what we know of the itinerant wanderings of Jesus with his disciples. Unlike these examples from the lives of previous avatars, Baba's new life was completely new. It had no apparent goal, no spiritual quest, no gain of any kind for its participants, nor even the idea of master and disciple, which Baba now called the old life. We know well some of the stories of the new life and the strict conditions for embarking on that journey. We know that Baba said, quote, "I am going on this new life and I am not coming back." We know that the new life didn't work the first time and succeeded the second time, with Baba effectively doing it alone, with a much smaller group of servant companions. The strict conditions of the new life were not part of an ascetic exercise. Rather, they were the necessary conditions to allow the new consciousness to seed itself on this plane of life. These were the needed conditions for entering the divine life here on earth. The door newly opened as the great cycle of cycles came to an end through Baba, and this new great cycle began. All of this, viewed through the broadest lens, was completely and utterly new. Baba made this possible by shedding his divinity during this period and actively, physically living these conditions along with his companions.
Baba demonstrated that the old life understanding of divinity, so widely shared, is nonetheless false. It is a mental idea, a concept of the limited lower mind, whose conditioned consciousness knows only the false world of duality. The very notion of master and disciple springs out of the divided world of multiple separativeness. In the new consciousness, there is no separation. All are one in God. It is a step into the new creation. Baba said, quote, "In my new life, perfect divinity is replaced by perfect humility," end quote. Perfect humility is the gateway to the new life and the new consciousness. In perfect humility, we seek not to transcend the earth, but rather to be as one with the earth itself, the supposed lowest rung or plane in creation. When one has learned the lessons of the soil, then there's nothing lower than you. There's nothing higher than you. All is one with God. Baba said, quote, "This new life is endless, and even after my physical death, it will be kept alive by those who live the life of complete renunciation of the falsehood, lies, hatred, anger, greed, and lust, who believe in the lovers of God and in the reality of manifestation, and yet do not expect any spiritual or material reward, who without being upset by calamities, bravely and wholeheartedly face all hardships with 100% cheerfulness."
Baba adds, quote, "This new life will live by itself eternally, even if there is no one to live it," end quote. We know the stories of the new life as stories of men and women encountering an array of challenges and joys in all kinds of settings. It also had profound universal resonance. Meher Baba was the elder brother leading the way, and his steps tread a path for all mankind. Again, his work on the new life brought to the gross plane what Baba called the life, capital letters, which is an entirely new quality of consciousness. Baba melded and united the poles of creation, the highest and the lowest, divinity and humanity, perfect divinity and total humility. The new life achieved a perfect blend of divinity and humanity, such that life could now, at long last, be real. This was the real end and the real beginning Baba had spoken of. Every phase of Baba's work advanced his essential avataric purpose. In fact, we could discuss every single thing he did through this lens. I will touch on just one more example from Baba's advent, one that we also gave a paper on here more recently, the 1969 Great Darshan. We know that on July 30th, 1968, Baba said, "My work is done. It is completed 100% to my satisfaction." Prior to this, Baba had been in seclusion, then in a period that he called exclusion. This wasn't formal seclusion, but Baba was not taking visits from his lovers. Mani described this latter period as the threshold leading to inclusion, the time that will include all in his darshan. Each chapter of Baba's work served to meld apparent opposites and dissolve creation's seeming polarities. At the Great Darshan, Baba dissolved the separation between lover and beloved, such that there was no longer inclusion or exclusion of any kind. One could now exist in the world of unity and be always with God. After dropping his body in 1969, Baba's form was placed in his tomb. A few months later, those who came for his great darshan at Guru Prasad attested to the powerful feeling of his presence, declaring that he was never more present. This was cited in the talk we gave as an example of inclusion for all. Baba's form was not present, but now all could be with him all of the time. Francis Brabazon captured the collapse of these apparent opposites with this statement: God has died and is most living. Here is Francis Brabazon again on this theme. On one and the same breath, I praise his silence and his word, for they are the same thing. His word is the movement of his silence, and his silence is the stillness of his word. His word is his limitless compassion, and his silence is the ocean of his love being. What greater word could God ever speak than that which slays an old world and begets a new one? Baba's advent was a wordless flow of love. Words are the stuff of teaching. As we know, Baba did not come to teach, but to awaken, to anchor his love through the cleansing power of his footsteps. His silence shielded this groundbreaking avataric work, allowing his radiance to flood this plane of life. Humankind can now live descendant spirituality on this gross plane. In other words, consciousness, to be lived by everyday human beings walking in the everyday world. We live Baba's new breeze in the everyday world while attending to our work and responsibilities. This means striving with every breath and through every action to live Baba's principles of truth, love, purity, and beauty. In the early decades of his advent, Baba spread his love and anchored his radiance on earth, in the East and the West. In the new life, he templated this new way of living and offered a code for its conditions so that all might follow him. After dropping his body, Baba offered at his great darshan the gift of his eternal embrace, the gift of being with all as one, all of the time. Thank you, Jai Baba. You go around. Do we have any questions from the audience?
They are so kind that
Raise your mom, is that worship? Is that, where is raising your mom?
they are so kind that they have concluded their presentation 5 minutes before. So if we have any questions, we can ask them and they would be happy to share. And they have done a wonderful job. We are all grateful to you. Thank you so much. What's some questions?
5 minutes should be plenty of time to talk about Meher Baba's big picture. No problem. We had one question that I think was answered. Were there any other questions on the talk?
Yes, sir. Line, it says that, Baba's new life. Wait. Even if there is no one to live. So can you please connect it to the big picture? What you just said, the big picture. You wanted to repeat that? You want me to? Okay, my question is, what you just said, the new life will live by its eternally, even if there is no one to live it. So when this big picture, what you just mentioned, could you connect this and maybe give us some examples so that we understand much better?
My background is in marketing. We don't actually have to answer all of the questions, but we'll do our best. I would love for Murshid to be here and to be able to give you his perspective, but I will just offer very briefly that My understanding of that statement is that Baba was templating the new life to establish this new creation and this new consciousness that would be here irrespective of whether any human beings were even here, that it's an accomplished fact. And so he did that nice thing for us so that that is now here for all time, so that when humanity comes and goes and comes back and starts again, this has been seeded so that we can do that now with a lot less trouble, I think. Yeah.
Is this another way of saying this is Baba's way of manifesting?
Is there more? That's the end of the question.
Yeah, Baba said he would be manifesting worldwide. And I get the sense that what you have just presented is another way of saying the same thing.
I also want to make sure you get a chance to go. It's actually, I'm not deferring that. I just want to offer that to Candace. But I don't really know. Again, if you wanted to, we could take a question back to Murshid Walker about that. My understanding is that Baba's manifestation is happening now and will continue, and that he's laid the foundation for something very wonderful that will happen over a long period of time, which is part of the big picture. So hopefully that helps us a little bit.
Wait.
Look at the time.
This is beyond time. So, I just want to know if in life, like manifestation, as he said of Baba. Well, we know that he has said that he's declared that during this Avataric period, his manifestation will be the highest. Does this new life continue beyond that? Is there anything to talk about it beyond the Avataric period? So for people who come after the 100 years, as proclaimed by Baba, how will this continue to, manifest for them?
These are really big questions. I'll just give you my 2 cents. I don't know if Gopran, do you have any? I'm happy to answer.
This will be next year's topic.
The only thing I can respond to in your question is that it seems as though every time the Avatar comes, he raises the level higher each time. And so Baba certainly would have done that when he came again this time. And so there's a lot of really wonderful things that will be unfolding that I think are probably beyond what we all know about. It sounds like you had maybe heard some specific things about a 100-year time frame. I'm not aware of that, but again, we'd be happy to take any of these questions back as well if you'd like, more official answer. So.
Thank you so much. It is not to cause you any inconvenience, because in the school, when the lesson is not given fully, and the students are asked questions, so that would be the difficulty. And this is really a test for you, but don't get inconvenienced. I'd just share to lighten this. We had in one of the legacy program mainly devoted to the new life. And at the end of that session, we put questions, a list of questions before the audience, because Baba has laid down certain conditions for the new life, that these are the conditions of the new life. And we just asked the audience, for each question you put 5 numbers, and there were about 100 marks in total that. And it is quite surprising and interesting and humorous also that most of the people, audience, they gave them 100 marks or 90 marks, and I myself could not give 5 marks even. It was so difficult to follow any of those conditions. So this is how this new life is a challenging thing. And that challenge was put before you because you took the responsibility, and the responsibility comes on those shoulders which are capable of that. So, with that you came here. Thank you so much. And both of you, we are grateful to you. Thank you so much. Now we have our next presentation from Richard Bloom. And that is about Baba's book. people could enjoy.
And my presentation focuses on Meher Baba's book. It's a relevant topic for this legacy program, which is focusing on the last several years of Baba's advent, because in January of 19... Hi, my name is Richard Blome, and my presentation focuses on Meher Baba's book. It's a relevant topic for this legacy program, which is focusing on the last several years of Baba's advent, because in January of 1969, Baba gave his final message regarding the book. It's also timely because 2025 is the year marking the 100th anniversary of when Baba began to write his book. The presentation you'll see was recorded Baba's silence. Jai Baba. Regarding Baba's last statement about his book, Erich recounted the following. It was in early January 1969. I asked him some question that somebody had asked, and Baba said, "Don't give me a headache. It's all in the book. It's clearly explained in the book, and when the book is out, it will all be clearly understood." I insisted, "But Baba, where is the book? Who has it?" Baba raised his hand and made a gesture, indicating a person wearing a hat, which meant a foreigner. I again asked him, "Baba, have you given instructions? Is it in safe hands? Does the person who has the book know what to do with it?" "Everything has been seen to. Just don't worry," Baba said. We're celebrating the 100th anniversary of Baba's silence, and it's also the 100th anniversary of when Baba began to write his mysterious book. And the book is mysterious because really no one has ever read it. Baba never gave a title to it, and we don't know where it is. Thinking today about how Baba's words have affected me in my life and my coming to Baba. So when I reached the peak of my wisdom in my life at the age of 16, as a teenager, I decided I was an atheist because I felt science could explain everything. Within a year or so, Baba came into my life. And I actually didn't really know Baba people for about 3 years because I learned about Baba through television. And
that makes perfect sense because I happen to be a nerd. So of course it would be I would learn about Baba through some technology like TV. The Alan Cohen was on the David Susskind show, and the show was about LSD. Anyway, was able to get a copy of the discourses, and I got a copy of God Speaks eventually. And whereas the concepts of God that was being presented to me in Sunday school were totally irrelevant, I didn't connect with that idea of God as being presented through religion. When I read God Speaks, the way that Baba described God really fit my scientific way of thinking of things. So I really feel that Baba has brought to the world a modern understanding of God that really fits with the scientific age in which we live. And his writing began 100 years ago. His serious writing began 100 years ago. And then even though the book has never surfaced, other books, of course, like the Discourses, God Speaks, and so on have. So tonight, the other thing that I'm going to focus on is whether there's a connection between his silence and his revelation. You know, he started his book 3 days after he began silence. So is there a connection between his silence and his book? And I think there is, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So, Baba's book is profound and mysterious. It's profound because Baba told us it's profound many times. And one of the things he said is, I have explained it all in detail in my book. Even scientists will be astonished to learn the secrets I have explained there. For these will not be vague talks, but facts that are substantiated and supported by scientific arguments. It will be the future universal Bible, not in the literal sense, but a book of understanding for people of all religions. And he said this, I think, maybe his second or so visit to the West, May 1932. So again, it's interesting that even Baba, not even Baba, but Baba is pointing out that will be substantiated and supported by scientific arguments. So that's, and it happens to fit in with some work that I'm doing, trying to bridge science and spirituality. Okay, so, and it's the first, as I say, of his many written revelations that included the discourses, God Speaks, the Everything and the Nothing, Life at its Best, Beams on the Spiritual Panorama, and so on. And the book is mysterious for a number of reasons. First, because no one has ever read it, except for 2 people who read short excerpts from it, including Adi Keirani and Mahatma Gandhi. We'll look into that a little bit later. And Baba always kept the book locked in a case, actually a metal case, and he always had it locked, or he kept it in a safety deposit box later in his life. And Baba always kept the book with him, particularly in the late 20s and 30s, until he put it into a bank box. And it's mysterious because no one knows where the book is. After Baba dropped the body, the book went totally missing. So the talk tonight is going to include 3 parts. There'll be a short history of Baba's writing of the book, an exploration of a connection between Baba's silence and his written revelations, and then we'll kind of trace the history of how his book went missing, which will include the dialogue between Don Stevens and Merwan Jesawala, because they each have something kind of fascinating to add to it. Each of them have a perspective and some actual participation with the book at some point in time. So bear with me here because I'm going to be reading some excerpts out of Lord Mayhere dealing with Baba's book. So that's a picture of Baba's jyoti, or his hut, which was, I think, taken in 1938. You can see how lush Mehrabad was at that time. So this is from Lord Mayher. It says, on the 13th of July, 3 days after his silence began, Baba commenced a new activity. He announced that he was writing a book. After his morning bath at 5 a.m., he would write in the Jogti from about 6 o'clock until 8:30, when he would leave the room for his other duties. He was to write the book at various places in Mehrabad. So we'll see that Baba did move around, like maybe 3 or 4, I think 4 different places at Mehrabad during like a year and a third. And what, I knew he was doing this, but when I actually began kind of researching this the last few weeks, I really was impressed by how much time and energy Baba put into writing the book. He was spending hours every day writing and did it consecutively for about, as I say, about a year and a third. So this is now in September. One day, Baba started July 13th, 1925. Now we're in September of that year. This is the picture of the Jogti as it is today. One day, Baba informed his close ones that he would be fasting from the 1st of September. He also began spending more time alone in his Jogti, where he was writing his book. Besides the mornings, on some days Baba would work on the book from early in the afternoon until 5 p.m., but he did not stop his other daily activities of grinding grain and inspecting the hospital and schools. So Baba remained active all throughout this time too. So this is the table cabin, kind of back at the picture of that time. This is the second place that Baba continued to do writing of his book. In the morning, he would remain aloof from others, preoccupied with writing his book inside the table cabin, which is what we're looking at here. So he actually would crawl into that little cabin, and he would sleep there too. At night, when everyone was asleep, he would continue writing on the veranda of the Hazrat Babajan school, using a kerosene lantern on a small portable desk. Any of the Mandali who rose in the middle of the night to urinate would see Baba sitting alone by the school, absorbed with his writing. We're now in October. Now November, and there's a picture of Baba. This is later, picture of Baba that's there at the table cabin. Baba would sit inside the table cabin to write his book. But when meetings were held with the Mandali, he would go to the Makan Ekas, or to the school veranda. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, the Makan Ekas, but I believe it was next to the post office where the women were staying. The post office was the place, it was the post office used by the British Army when they had this property. And of course the property was abdicated by the British after World War I. Adi K. Arani's father bought it, and then he eventually donated it to Baba. And so you'll see there's also a reservoir that Baba used that was part of the property. Baba said at one point, "You do not have the slightest idea of how I suffer in my physical form. Even on an empty stomach," because he was fasting, "I remain active throughout the day, moving about here and there, besides working on the book for 3 to 4 hours at a stretch, which makes my back ache. Yet I have nothing left to achieve for myself. My aim is achieved. My present suffering, fasts, and seclusions are for the benefit of others. The majority of you know this to be true, as you have personally experienced and witnessed it." Now that was December now of that same year. So now Baba moves again. For 4 months, from 11 November 1925 to the 28th of March 1926, Baba's seat during the night had been inside the table cabin. But from the 29th of March, Baba began staying in the boxlight cabin inside Darbar. He continued writing his book there and would leave only at noon for his daily round of inspections and return there at 6 p.m. Although Baba did not reveal what he was writing in his book, he would on occasion make spontaneous remarks regarding spirituality or esoteric points. And I may have been wrong about what I said about the previous structure, but I think maybe the side Darbar was what actually was near the post office. If we have any Mehrabad scholars here who can tell me. Okay. Now in April, Baba moves again, this time to Upper Mehrabad. This is the reservoir that the British built, the water tank. In the quiet, solitary atmosphere, Baba continued writing his book in the water tank, while Jalbai and Baal, not Baal Natu, an early Baal, took turns keeping watch outside. For 7 days, Baba did not leave the tank, but thereafter he resumed his daily rounds of inspections at Lower Mehrabad. From morning until noon, he would write his mysterious book in the tank, and again retire there in the evening to work on it. Regarding the contents of the book, he revealed almost nothing except that it contained spiritual secrets. Baba's stay in the tank had lasted for almost 2 months, from May 3rd to June 30th. Now he began his second stay in Darbar, where he continued writing his mysterious book, which he indicated was still incomplete. Almost a year now, May 1926. And now October of 1926, up to this time, Baba would write his book during the day at the box-like cabin inside Sai Darbar, and at night he would continue writing in the table cabin. But on Tuesday, October 12th, 1926, he again retired to the water reservoir on the hill for what he indicated would be a period of 100 days of special work. The Mandali and students took him there in a procession at 8:30 that evening. Bhajans were sung, and afterwards tea was served, just like we serve tea. And then finally, October 20th, 1926, the table cabin near the Duni was shifted to a new spot. It was here that Baba finished writing his secret book. The book was thought to have been completed during his second stay inside Darbar, but a few more points were added during Baba's stay at Mehrabad Hill, and the final material was completed inside the small cabin. So now Baba has finished writing so it took from July 13th, 1925 to October 20th, 1926, about a year and a third that he was actively writing the book, and you can see how many hours a day he was putting into it, plus his other duties. So I wasn't aware of it before, just how much time and energy he was putting into the book. So here's some facts about Baba traveling with the book. It says after Baba completed writing his book, whenever he left Mehrabad, he took the manuscript with him, locked in a black metal case. Padri remembers having to carry the case around his neck. Quote, Baba had warned us, he recalled, guard this with your life and never, never see what is inside. You'll go mad. At one point, Asfaria was deputed as the keeper of the book and would have to carry the case wherever they went. It was kept near him at all times, even while he slept. Baba would keep the key to the lock on his person, tied on a string around his neck. No one at that time had read anything of what Baba had written. Okay, so Baba would make comments about his book from time to time. Chanji was Baba's secretary, and Baba commented on the contents of his book in the Navla on November 26, 1926, when he saw Chanji typing his recent discourses. Baba said, you find these explanations of mine very interesting, but they are nothing compared to what I have written in my book at Mehrabad. Its 300 pages cover only short points, and when they are fully amplified and rewritten, the points will comprise several large volumes. It is full of secrets which no previous saint or prophet has ever divulged. And that was in 1926. And another comment Baba made was, never before have spiritual secrets been revealed in such a way as I have written them. Hindu scriptures no doubt touch on some of these points here and there and explain them to a certain extent, which is not found in other scriptures. But I have revealed spirituality in direct and clear terms, explaining it all in plain language. In the future, this work will be the universal scripture for the world. It's 1927. Someone asked Baba, why was he not allowing anyone to read his book, in which he said he revealed hitherto unknown spiritual truths? And Baba explained, One must be prepared to read what I have written. It would be dangerous in one respect if this intellectual knowledge is imparted. At times, the desire for God realization and experiencing that state vanishes, and the aspirant is only satisfied with what he knows intellectually or sees, then the desire for union does not remain as keen. So he's saying is, if you get the intellectual knowledge from reading, you may feel that you understand and take away that intense longing to really know God and the truth. So the only person who really read a substantial amount was Mahatma Gandhi. The other person was Adi Keirvani, Baba's other secretary after Chanji had passed away. And the story with Mahatma Gandhi is that they were both traveling to London at the same time. Gandhi was going to attend the round table. It's a circle. Circles are round. So it was a round circle table. And Gandhi was going there. Of course, this was, you know better than me, that he was going there to discuss India's eventual freedom from England. And while on board, he met Baba. And there's a conversation that took place between them. Gandhi asked, and this is from Lord Behar, where is that book? Baba had already told him somewhat about Baba's own life and his own experiences and told him he'd written a book. And then Gandhi said, okay, where is that book? And pointing to a trunk, because Baba always traveled with the book, he replied, in there. Can I read it? Gandhi asked. Have you the time? Baba dictated. Oh, I can find the time to read it. Why not? I will definitely read it. Give it to me. A little demanding. Baba warned him, be careful. Up to now, I have not allowed anyone to see it, not even my Mandali. As the first person to read it, I'm giving it to you alone. You may go through it, but allow no one else to read it. Assuredly, I will go through it with great joy. And then, after reading it, he comes back to Baba's cabin and says, these writings of yours should be in their original form, else they will lack sweetness. Whatever is yours, and whatever is from others is others. I have gone through your sayings, and I have grasped their truth. All these I have drunk and digested. I have clearly understood what you wish to convey. But the writings by others, new, raw, and in inexperienced hands, are difficult to follow. So he's talking there because some papers included with Baba's book were being edited by K.J. Dastur. And Gandhi was finding that those just were not as good as what Baba's own way of conveying through his own writing was. Okay, so now I'm going to show a video of Padri talking about those early days. Padri is one of Meher Baba's disciples, and he was a witness to Baba's first day of keeping silence and Baba's writing of the book. He was one of the four pillars of Mehrabad and really the head caretaker of Mehrabad up throughout his whole life. Daniel, you have a question?
So, what were the writings of K.J. Dastur? You said nobody else had read the book. So what were these writings?
I have no idea.
But they were not of the book.
I have no idea.
I think they had a lot to do with the way he was editing the journal, the Meher Message, and Baba would have a hard time with the way he edited those articles.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I don't really know why Baba would keep all those materials with the book, and whether he was editing material of the book or it's something completely different. It's not really stated.
Well, I think Gandhi would have probably read the Meher Message and formed his opinion based on that. That's my guess.
Well, maybe. Okay, so here's the video.
1923, when we first came to Mehrabad.
1923.
Yes, sir, 1923. There are many buildings around about here of the First World War vintage, and there was nothing here, but Baba wanted one hut for himself, and Jopri means the hut. This was built under Baba's own supervision. We didn't have anything to do with it. We just helped the carpenter, the mason, and whatnot. And Baba had this built for himself. And I'll show you the significance of this hut. This is where, in the year 1925, on the 9th of July, Baba went in talking and came out silent on the morning of the 10th. This is the hut. After Baba had observed silence, 10th of July 1925, he started writing the book. He called for paper, pencil, ink, whatever he required, and it was supplied. This table here was under the tree where the Dhuni is today. It was just under the tree. And the Dhuni, the other day I told you, the Dhuni was lighted in the year 1925, the month of September, right? So, Baba takes up his abode there also during the day. He comes at night here, and there was a small cabin-like thing on the platform beyond the road, and Baba would write the book anywhere. He would write it in this jhopri, he would write it in the table, or he would go in that cabin on that platform. But strict orders. Nobody should approach me. Nobody should approach me. You tell the watchman, go and stand there and let nobody come near me. Let nobody come near me, only when I clap. You see, he used to clap. You have seen him. That's that. Come. Then, once while he was writing the book, he mentioned that he was writing it in English, with plenty of Gujarati, Marathi, and everything thrown in, Persian couplets and everything. And that manuscript, after writing, was deposited in a box. The box? Manuscript, I don't know how many, loose leaf. It was loose leaf. And it was deposited in the box. It took about 8 to 9 months when he was, living in this table. After the job was finished, he came out of the table, though it was not very strict. Not that he was all 24 hours a day in the table, as I said. He would come out here, he would go to the Dhuni, he would go to the cabin, just anywhere. Just anywhere he would write down. And after the book was finished, it was put in a small box. Say the box is about 14 or 15 long, about 5 or 6 high, and about 12 inches wide. From the day that manuscript was put into the box, and whenever we went on travels, we took with us. Baba said, take this box. All right. And he said, you guard this with your life. You don't leave it anywhere. What was I saying? About the book. Yes, sir, about the book. Well, during our travel, I had it round my neck, I remember very well. And if I had to go anywhere, I would entrust it to somebody else with the same order. Don't leave it alone. Baba said, I'll kill you. Don't leave it alone. This is very important manuscript. It should not be stolen. But later on, we lost trace of it. I don't know. We don't know, rather, whom Baba gave it to. We are still searching for that manuscript. Do you know anything about it? Do you? Can you tell me? People say that I know the whereabouts. Had I known the whereabouts, would I not have told the world about it? This table, as I said, was under the tree near the Dhuni. Dhuni did not exist then. First came the table, then the Dhuni. Dhuni has a story of its own. Anyway, in 1925, Baba secluded himself in this table. It was not a sort of very strict seclusion. He would come out of this room. For him, this was the room. This is a good room for a man to sleep in and live comfortably, sit comfortably, of course not stand comfortably. Baba would open the door, come and sit down under this roof. And just opposite the roof there was dug the dhuni. The first dhuni was lighted just opposite there. There was no platform then. And here he wrote the book. He started writing the book inside this. That was sort of staggered seclusion or partial seclusion. He lived in this table, but he would come out of the table. He would come into the jhopadi to write, or he would go any place where he would want to write. But strict orders, keep off from me. Go on, just out. He would give the instructions to the orderly. Don't let anybody come near me. The minimum distance would be about, say, 100 feet. The orderly would strictly obey the order, and he would just chase everybody out. We strictly followed that. Here, he wrote the book. In the jhopadi, he wrote the book. And later on, we carried all the manuscript. For a number of years, we guarded it with our lives. But then, something has happened to you. Do you know what? Can you give us the idea where is it? No? I don't know. You know it. Go on, speak up. Come on, dig it out. Everybody is searching for it. No? Well, I don't know either. Neither the Mandali knows. But I remember very well having carried it around my neck. It was a square, a rectangular black box. And Baba had warned us, as you protect this, you guard this box with your life, and never, never open and see what is inside. You will go mad.
Okay, so moving on to a different topic is this question of, is there a connection between Baba's silence and his written revelations? And, he began writing the book just 3 days after he began silence. So was this just a coincidence, or is there some deeper connection between them? And I happen to feel there actually is a connection, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Baba at times in speaking about the book, would also mention that it was at the same time of his silence, like he did here. He's answering a question to Irene Conybeare, a Western woman, who came to visit Baba, I think in the late 40s, this is in 1953. And he said to her, in explaining something, the book which I have personally written when I had just stopped speaking, and which I wrote in 1 year, and he goes on to explain. Anyway, there he is connecting